So we are on chapter 15. We're going to start in 15, which is the Forbidden Forest. And we're almost done with the first book, which is crazy. I'm glad that we're doing 2 chapters at a time now because we can go through this quicker, because otherwise we'd be on like chapter 7 or something. So when you guys were reading through chapter 15, what were some things that you noticed? There's a bunch of really fun things, I think, in this chapter.
I had stuff, my brain went blank as soon as you asked the question.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, it's always like that.
The pressure.
Yeah.
What did you notice, John?
Well, I have to say, one of my favorite like foreshadowing lines is in this chapter, where the centaurs are like, well, first of all, they say Mars is bright, and then they say, always the innocent are the first victims, he said. So it has been for ages past, so it is now. And I think that line is so good because it encapsulates a lot of the series. Like in every single book, one of the first deaths is usually someone who is incredibly innocent. And it's tragic. Like the whole entire lead up to really the Battle of Hogwarts, it's just a bunch of innocent people dying, which is just tragic. And I love that she put that in this book. And I mean, it means something about the unicorn, obviously, but it means something so much larger for the rest of the series.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a great point,
Yeah,
but I don't know how to add on
There's
to that.
no discussion that you can add on to that. It's just
No,
like,
true.
oh yeah,
Nothing
it's
else to
interesting.
add.
Well observed. Yeah.
I'm trying to avoid to say Saint George. Gosh.
I think the whole entire conversation with Frenzy is really interesting, and how much it basically like lays out the ending of the whole entire series if you're looking at it through a certain view. So that was really interesting to like really slow down and read carefully.
What are the things that it lays out?
The question of like, how much do the centaurs know? How much, like, did some of them think that Harry should have died that night because they were in the forest? It had, the red moon, I think, is part of it. Or, is it a matter of just skill set? Because then Frenzies, asked the other one, I forgot his name, Bane, maybe. How much have the stars shown you, like, kind of arrogantly, like, they showed me more than they showed you, apparently, because I'm willing to step in here and you're not. I don't know. All of that is really interesting to me.
It is a really fascinating question for how much they know as well. Like, being a seer has been a fascinating question. Even I've been discussing it a lot with Lizzie, and like the idea that people can see, and the centaurs being thrown into that mix, there's a whole different dimension onto it. Like how accurate are they really? Their branch of seeing seems maybe a bit better than Trelawney's, but I'm curious what you guys think of them. Are they true seers, or are they just reading the signs, or what are they exactly doing?
I think they're more reading and interpreting versus seeing. I feel like Trelawney's not even really consciously seeing.
Yeah.
It's just something that just happens to her,
Yeah.
She doesn't even seem to remember like what she said. It just happens,
So if that's the case, is anybody truly like a seer, I guess, or is seeing just random? It seems like people who are seers are maybe chosen to get like these prophecies delivered to them, but I don't know. Is it normal that the seers remember their prophecies after? I feel like someone would say that they're almost like possessed by something, and then they have this like vision, and then they like go
certainly
back.
Seemed like she was possessed.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yep.
And that's the way that they like portrayed it.
Yeah. I love Emma Thompson's portrayal of that.
I don't think they can just turn it off and on again. And then
yeah.
With the centaurs, I kind of see it more as they have a bit of information that they can understand, but then it's up to them to interpret it, and whether they interpret it correctly or not. Maybe it's not an exact science. So
even Brinsley was saying that they've misread, before. So he said that he hoped that was the case this time.
Yeah, I like to take that centaurs are just like, the astrology girls of the series. They're just looking at the
They
stars.
totally are.
Yeah.
They totally are.
Like, there's all of this stuff going down, and they're just like, Mars is bright
Yeah.
tonight. And you're like, what did you smoke in the forest? Like,
Yeah.
why? Just,
They definitely have kind of like a stoner-esque kind of vibe
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah.
for sure. Like,
Yeah, for
I
sure.
don't know what kind of mushrooms they're growing in that forest. But, it's just like, yeah, when he's like, Mars is bright tonight, and I'm like, shut up. Like, we're lost in the forest. Just give us some information. This means nothing to me.
I think that was what stood out to me the most, is that the first time I read it, I was just annoyed by them because they were so repetitive.
Yeah.
And then the second time around, I was like, wow, this is actually really fascinating stuff.
So that makes a good point, though, because the first time you're reading it, you're just like, I want answers. Give
Yeah.
me answers, you know? And then the second
And
time
that's
around,
exactly
it's
how Harry feels as well.
Yep.
In that
Yeah.
moment, which is why it's so annoying, because like he doesn't know what that means. Like, he's in first year. Maybe somebody that's been studying, you know, astrology or whatever for years. But Harry's just an 11-year-old kid stuck in the woods, and he's got some centaur which he's never seen before. Not just the specific centaur, but never seen a centaur before. And that's like one of his first interactions.
I said, it makes sense that they get along with Dumbledore, actually, yeah, from the wizards, because they also do like the same thing with Dumbledore. Sort of doesn't give him the answer, but gives him more questions, sort of lead him to the answers. Like their interaction with oh word, sorry, my video keeps dying. Their interaction where he says, is there anyone that you think would like go after the stone and stuff, like, is very Dumbledore-ish.
Yeah. They're really good at the Socratic method, which is so infuriating when you're Harry. You're like, just someone give me a straight answer. This is ridiculous.
It's like, why does everything have to be a puzzle?
But I must say, like, I wonder if they did see something. What did they see? Did they see the sacrifice at the end of the, like, Harry sacrificing himself? Or did they see the loss during the battle, seeing that it's in the forest again? Like, you know, because this is the first time Harry goes into the forest, and that will be the last time. So I wonder if they did see something. Sort of like, you can't say anything because then it will change that.
Well,
kind of.
I mean, he's in the same clearing that he gets killed at in the forest again, right?
Dang.
It's the same clearing. I think that distinction is
No, the
made.
clearing, where he gets killed, isn't that where Aragog lives?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
No, but like just being in the forest, I think gives that kind
Right.
of, yeah.
Well, the
Mythical.
elements are there, right? Like Harry's there, Voldemort is there,
Yes.
and approaching Harry, likely to kill him through Quirrell, right? Like, is that what was going to happen before
No.
Ren stepped in? I mean, his head exploded with pain, so I would think that that's a sign that he was feeling, that Voldemort was feeling murderous and stuff. So, so it's possible that the centaurs saw Harry's supposed to get killed by Voldemort in the forest, and then that's my interpretation, or a reading you could possibly have when the centaurs are like centaurs are concerned with what has been foretold, right? It's not our business to run around like donkeys after stray humans in our forest. Like, I think they were supposed to let that, they thought that they were supposed to let that happen, but Ferenz stepped in, and I mean, it circles around and happens later in the forest again, but
Anyways, that's where the interesting thing comes in with any time travel show, or if someone can see the future or flashes of the future. What do? Do you interfere to stop what's going to happen?
Yeah,
or
really.
you can't because it already happened, because you, like, do you just let it happen? Do you warn them? Or what? You know, like, that's always the moral question that gets asked in any time travel show, or, you know, stuff like this. So yeah, it's quite interesting.
I mean, like physically, I feel like centaurs could just like, you know, march over to Voldemort in this weird form and just like start trampling on him, just like murder him right there, and then you're good. But it is actually a really interesting moral conundrum. I kind of.
Do you think the centaurs know about Horcruxes though, or at
Yeah.
least know some, maybe not exactly about Horcruxes, but maybe they know that they can't just trample him to kill
Yeah,
him.
seriously, yeah.
Which,
I think something
But
worth
that's the thing.
mentioning.
Do they stop the killing of a unicorn, or do they let it happen?
I think they're more of the opinion that they just have to like stand back and just let what's supposed to happen happen.
Yeah.
And not interfere. You know, let's let it play out. Any type of interference is going to cause issues.
Yeah.
That's the big issue between like Ferenz and Ronan and Bane. Like the interference, they think that Ferenz has interfered with something. And that's where they get really upset with him.
So there's not like a ton of like religion, but I feel like centaurs have that religion where they probably don't want to act on things. They're just like watchers of the universe. They're able to interpret the signs pretty well. And maybe, I don't know, maybe in their past they've interpreted signs wrong and they've like interpreted, or they've like stepped in and it's been completely like misaligned. So I'm sure it's probably in their lore and tradition to not step in and mess things up. But it's actually interesting for Ferenz, who actually does step in here. It kind of like adds to his character a little bit, and he's like ostracized and outcast later from the series. But that's like a fascinating point of what their traditions are, and like why. I guess they've just taken the stance that they just need to sit back and watch. But yeah, it's a interesting take on that.
I wish the world had been a little bit more, or I don't know, not the world, but I wish that they had like kind of explained more about the centaurs, because you know that they're in the Forbidden Forest is the only place that we ever see them.
Yeah.
Like, are they elsewhere? I mean, I'm assuming that they would be, that there's other communities in other forests across the wizard world, but just want to know, I don't know, that would just be really, I've always wondered about that.
Yeah.
They cannot be just the only ones there, you know, like what is their culture like?
And then, okay, this is gonna sound like a wild question. I was talking about this with Lizzie, but what is the morality of? I guess we'll talk about morality in a second. But what is the sentience of centaurs? Can a human fall in love with a centaur in the wizarding world? And you know, like, because there's this weird classification, and it pops up in this chapter a little bit between beasts and beings. And I am just looking into this more and more, and it's a fascinating distinction in the wizarding world. And it seems like such an arbitrary, foolish distinction. But I feel like you have to have some kind of distinction to at least some extent. But they're classified as beasts, which is wild to me because they seem to have equal sentient to witches and wizards. And then they seem to have like, I don't know, something else going on where they're like able to like read the signs even better. So I don't know.
Isn't it because they had the choice and they decided that they wanted to?
Really?
Yeah, I think it's in some kind of
it might be
reading somewhere that someone
wanted to kind of like remain separate from wizards.
So that they had the choice and they decided that they wanted to be a beast and not be classified as a beast and not a wizard.
All right, I kind of respect that.
And
then
they're not wand carriers either, so they've got that distinction.
Yeah.
But I think if they can physically make a child together, then I think that's fine. No, like, if it's natural, and they're all about, you know, letting nature run its course and yada yada yada. So if it's possible for a human or a wizard to have a child with a centaur, then why not?
I mean,
Nature
giants
is
and humans.
allowed
I mean,
it.
giants and wizards.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Giants aren't wand holders either. So.
Yep.
Exactly.
So I don't necessarily want to think about the logistics of it, but because Hagrid's there. So.
Yeah. Well,
and honestly,
I mean,
think it's less weird with the centaur, to be honest.
So like we don't see any female centaurs. So like, are there female centaurs?
We don't see any. That's right. I didn't think about that.
Maybe feminism is just really, really far behind in the centaur community. The women
Yeah.
are all they're all
back at
washing their centaur dishes and looking after the centaur
Well, so they were
children.
busy cooking.
Or it's so
He
far
knows
ahead,
mushrooms.
rolling somewhere in the middle of the
That's like half the plot of one of the musicals. I think the second musical for a Harry Potter musical. It's like there's no female centaurs, and so who is it? Umbridge is like the only female that's strong enough to be able to bear children that are female centaurs or something like that. It's so wild. I don't even want to think about that.
It's a terrible thought.
Yeah, you just gotta. Yeah, explaining the plot of that play out loud is a little bit strange.
a plug for your future season with Lizzie, John. It definitely got wild that last time around.
Yeah, some of the discussion that we're talking about is a little insane, but it's fun, I also think this series is a little crazy for, like, sometimes I think that wizards and witches don't have common sense. You're gonna put 4 first years into the Forbidden Forest on their first detention in the middle of the night when Hagrid is about to go look for something that he's never seen before, like the murder of a unicorn. Hagrid's never seen that, and it's incredibly dark. He even talks about how incredibly dark it is. And you're going to bring 4 first years out there. Like, what is going on? How ridiculous.
I thought it was strange, too. I'm like, this is literally one of the very first things that they were told not to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, you're in trouble? Okay, now you're going to go do that. Like,
yep.
Yeah. Well, you have to think about, I feel like the ethics are quite dated in Hogwarts.
Yeah,
I mean, the Wizarding world in general is quite dated generally, so you have to imagine the ethics probably are as well. And I don't think people really cared quite as much about, especially if the child has been badly behaved, then I mean it's free for all.
It's like looking at car seats from the 60s.
Yeah.
So
you just had a rope, you just tie it around yourself,
It's amazing. Terrifying.
And it was like within Filch's lifetime that there were chains and stuff.
Yeah, he keeps them well oiled.
So there has been some progression, at least.
Yeah.
They're no longer torturing children.
Yeah.
Even though I'm pretty sure Danny would be okay with this, right?
Yeah, he'd love it. It's all about the torture of children. It is.
But I must think that's great compared to the other detentions that they get. Because the other ones are like normal.
Polishing trophies, signing fan mail, like... First year,
It's
go to the
horrible,
Forbidden Forest and try to
like,
uncover a plot that's never happened before. That's really terrifying.
Like, they act like they did a really bad thing. I mean, McGonagall is like, never in my life force students out of bed.
I know.
Like, never in your whole career have you had forced
You've been a teacher for years and you've never seen that?
I'm pretty sure that that's happened.
Outrageous. This is absolutely outrageous that she's so shocked by this. Teenagers are teenagers. Of course, there's going to be 4 of them out of bed. She just acts like it's just the most outrageously unheard of thing ever. I mean, she was a teacher when the Marauders were there.
I was going to think the Marauders, exactly. Like, they were fully blown animagus. They're not only out of bed after hours, they're turning into animals and stuff,
Well, I mean, technically it's not them if they're in their animal form.
They were never caught.
Yeah, they were never caught. That's the thing. So maybe they're just better.
They're just better.
What she really means is, never in my life have I seen students so stupid to get caught out of bed at night. It's actually
they did leave the invisibility cloak. I mean, come on, guys. Come on.
She's probably just more disappointed that they're not smart enough, and that's why she's like, I thought Gryffindor meant more to you. She's like, I thought that you would be smarter as a Gryffindor to be like. She's just disappointed.
They get punished for their stupidity.
Crystal, what'd you say? I think you were trying to jump in.
Yeah, a couple of times.
Sorry.
I
didn't even hear you.
Can you hear me well?
Yeah, your volume's a little low, so I'm gonna see if I can boost you up a little bit.
Maybe I just need to get closer to the microphone too. I was gonna say a couple things. One is that I thought it was interesting that Mars is the god of war, so I think that potentially what they're seeing is that war is coming. And then, I was talking about just how bad Harry and Hermione are apparently. or Harry and Hermione are at sneaking out because they're the only ones that got caught in all of McGonagall's time there.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that Mars is the bringer of war, so it's like war is coming. And yeah, I always noted that line, and like I always find it hard to believe that McGonagall's never seen this before, but maybe every student before them has been really good at sneaking out, and they're just terrible at sneaking out. But they have a freaking invisibility cloak.
From the kitchen
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, maybe having an invisibility cloak makes you like have a false sense of confidence that you can get away with anything and do anything. So they're like just very reckless when they do this kind of stuff.
But it's also 4 of them, so I think she might have caught like 2 or 3 out of bed.
Yeah,
but like 4.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the thing.
Yeah, a little crazy.
I love the part where Neville and Malfoy shoot up sparks, and then Hermione says, "I hope they're not hurt." And then Harry is like, "I don't care if Malfoy got hurt, but as long as Neville's okay."
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. And I think like at this point, Harry doesn't really have a concept of danger. I think because he hasn't really been in a dangerous situation yet. Where when you compare this Harry to the Harry at the end of the series, where he actually saves Malfoy's life a couple of times. And it's not like, so if you say like, oh, I hope you get like it's like in a series or a movie, say they're always like, oh, I hope you die. But it's not like really, I hope you die.
Yeah.
So if you don't have really like the concept
at this time.
No,
like it's like when you say, I was like, oh, she's gonna say something dark again.
No.
Sorry.
I'm not doing it. I'm just gonna put on some watch list or something.
Yeah.
So I'm like, turn down. So I just like the comparison between Harry, like now that he doesn't actually know what is danger and what is dangerous, because he hasn't actually been in a actual life-threatening situation. So it's very like funny how he's here, like, oh, I don't care if Malfoy gets hurt. Yeah.
It is really fun to reread the first book while you know the whole series, because you see how far Harry has come for certain things. Like his progression from hating Malfoy to like, we just got to this chapter in the first read through with Jen, Danny, and Kristen. It's like he literally saves Malfoy's life numerous times, which is astonishing. I don't think book 1 Harry could really do anything to like threaten Draco's life because he doesn't know enough magic, I guess. But yeah, his progression through the books is pretty remarkable.
But I think like Harry won't, like all the things that's happened to him, like in the past, like any injuries or like traumatic experience, he wouldn't wish that on anyone. So like even when Malfoy is forced to torture someone by Voldemort, he actually feels sorry for Malfoy. It's like, so he does, like his growth is shown here where he actually knows what danger is now, and that someone's life can actually be like damaged or actually changed by a traumatic situation, where I think that he definitely doesn't have that experience and knowledge at this moment in the forest.
Yeah. What else did you guys see in this chapter?
Malfoy's a jerk.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I always have to say it though. Come on. We were talking about the tensions and how the other ones are not as bad as this one is. And Becky, don't get mad at me, but I think part of it is that Hagrid is the person who's deciding what they're doing this time around. Hagrid definitely has like a different sense of what dangerous is.
True.
But who said they must go to Hagrid?
Yeah. I feel like there needs to be some kind of like rubric for detentions, I guess. Like, who is the one that administers it? Is it because maybe it is the head of the house. Maybe McGonagall is the one that does it, and she knows what Hagrid's doing. Maybe she knows the whole thing's gonna be safe. Maybe that's why like we sometimes it's like always chalked up to be like, you know, a funny point that the tension is ridiculous. But I'm trying to think of what's going on behind the scenes with like, do they want Harry to see something specific here? Do they want him to see like, is McGonagall and Dumbledore doing this specifically? Maybe they know he's not going to be hurt, and maybe Dumbledore really knows that what's going on behind the scenes here. So he's like, okay, let's send him into the forest. Hagrid will protect him. Maybe like Dumbledore's, I don't know, lurking in the forest somewhere, just like, you know, ready to protect him at any given notice. Maybe he even told the centaurs to.
I think they're kind of using him as bait. Even.
Almost, yeah, to like draw him out. Maybe specifically just so Harry can see something that he needs explained to him, which is the soul of Voldemort and kind of what's going on and what will kind of go on in the future.
Maybe they need him to experience that firsthand to actually understand it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So at this point, you guys all think Dumbledore for sure knows that Voldemort is somehow on campus?
I wonder, does he pop up on the Marauders map?
That is a really good question.
Like, are Fred and George looking at the Marauders map right now? Yeah, would he be Tom Riddle or would he be Voldemort? And he's just like chilling on the back of Quirrell's head.
Using the map as actively as they did when they first found it.
Yeah, I don't think so. I feel that's a great point. I don't think they're using it that much because they like know everything about the castle already. But there's still a point where it's like just cool. Like Harry just finds himself poring over the thing. Like, you know, because he's love struck. He's like, you know, looking at Ginny's little dot.
And George going like, okay, this is our goal. We need to do this. This is how we're gonna. So we're using that map for this. We need to go to the kitchens.
Yeah.
But Harry will actually go like, and you know, okay, but that's also only in the 7th book when he misses Jenny, where actually like, and when he's like trying to find out what Malfoy is doing, where he actually like studies it. He doesn't even like study it when he like gets it. So I'm actually thinking if Fred and George is like actively, because that also like answers why I didn't ever notice Peter Pettigrew being like
well that's explained because the map doesn't show Marauders. I've heard that's the only explanation that I've heard for that.
But like, you know, I don't think they're like actively using the map as much as they did, like, because they are 2 years older than.
Yeah, my only proof for them being able
to look where they're going.
Like,
if they've got to go somewhere, they just look at that route and make sure there's nobody there. I don't think they'll be like Harry, like looking for specific people, which is a bit creepy. To be honest, I feel like in the hands of Fred and George, it's probably a bit more innocent.
Fred and George has like certain goals, like to the kitchens or to this, not like sneaking around like in other places in the castle. So
I have a weird not like headcanon but like rough theory on this. I think that they used it maybe like a few times here and there, and I think one random time they did see Quirrell, but I think Voldemort's name wasn't Voldemort on the map. I think it was Tom Riddle. But I don't think, like, none of them knew who Tom Riddle was. When Tom Riddle reveals his name, it's like a shocker. So I think the reason that they were pelting snowballs at the back of Quirrell's head is because they saw this thing that was happening on the map they didn't quite understand, which is Tom Riddle is, like, melded with Quirrell. And they're like, okay, we need to figure something out. Let's, like, pelt him with snowballs to see if we can like knock his turban off to see if we can see anything that's happening back there, you know? Like, it's a ridiculous theory, but
real name. Quirrell is his stage name.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I don't know. It's like a wild theory, but like they could be pelting snowballs at anybody. Like I feel like the twins would definitely be wanting to pelt snowballs at Snape more than anybody else. Why are they doing it at Quirrell? Quirrell is kind of like this helpless, like, stuttering guy. They're not bullies so much. I mean, to an extent, Fred and George are a little bullyish, but I feel like they're choosing Quirrell specifically because they see something on the Marauders map that they're like, something's weird here. Let's do the most harmless thing that we can to see if we can figure out an issue. It's ridiculous, but...
I like your theory, John.
Thank you. That's all I needed. I just needed one person to be online with me.
I like it.
But yeah, I don't know. And that's why even in this chapter, I kind of think McGonagall and Dumbledore are leading Harry into this plot because they know what's happening and they know that he needs to see something at this moment. So I think there's a lot more going on behind the scenes in this book than I think we sometimes give it credit for. But I just like I don't know if I like the idea, but I think it's just an interesting idea that they're planning for Harry to get to this moment so that one of the centaurs, who maybe they actually do deem as true seers, is able to tell him certain things that he needs to hear at this moment.
I would love it if they have if they have in the series, if they have like an episode, like a day in the staff room.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
I would to know, like, how do they discuss the tensions? Like, I've given this attention and this one did the, like something like that. I would just want to know what's the discussions.
Yeah,
in the
agreed.
staff
The
room.
style of The Office, like just a short form style of The Office.
That would be so good.
I think we must do a write-in campaign to put into the.
Oh, that'd be so funny.
Yeah, do you know the theory about how it was Dumbledore's whole plan to summon Voldemort by using the Philosopher's Stone?
Mm-mm.
No? Mm-hmm. Oh, well, I find it very convincing, and I'm not going to do it any justice, because words do not go from my brain to my mouth very well, but we'll give it a go. So basically, it's that it was Dumbledore's entire intention to summon Voldemort, basically to see if he had made a comeback, and if he had, then what state he was in. And this is why, first of all, he got Hagrid to be basically the main dude, because obviously Hagrid is not going to be very reliable, love the man, but he's not very subtle. So the fact that they got Hagrid to go and collect it from Gringotts, first of all, he's the most obvious person, and secondly, it's the day that he's bringing the boy who lived to Gringotts, so obviously there's going to be a huge ado about it. And then for it to happen in the castle, and then all of those traps that it takes to get down to where the Philosopher's Stone is, are all definitely easy enough for Voldemort to get past. But Dumbledore is playing into Voldemort's narcissism, because he'll be like, he'll think, here's some tricks, and that way it keeps him away from the students, because it gives him an obvious place to look, and he's not just running chaotic around the castle. There's loads and loads of stuff to back it up, but
that's fascinating. I love that.
Good at relaying this information, but it's like a theory that I fully buy into. If you read into it, I know this is no good for a podcast for me to be like,
no, this is
read
great.
about it in your own time. But
it does make sense, because why this
Yeah.
year?
No. Yeah.
Well,
Right.
I would say that the slight thing that I see that is funky about that is that I do think that Voldemort was already after the Philosopher's Stone, because Quirrell was already at Diagon Alley and tried to steal it that day before they took it out of the vault at Gringotts. So I don't think that it was so much of Dumbledore deciding now is the time, but I can definitely get on that train as far as like, okay, now Dumbledore somehow figures out Voldemort is after this. Let's bring it to Hogwarts so that I could do all the things that you just said.
Yeah, but it's also as well, like, because Dumbledore then went to the Ministry that day, and it was in this theory that was basically Dumbledore's plan, or to do that, to summon Voldemort. Snape knew about it, knew the whole plan, blah blah blah. And the reason that he left was because he knew that that's when Voldemort would come. So he'd planned it the whole time that that's exactly when it was going to happen. And then the theory kind of caters for whether he knew that the three were going to go down, or whether he didn't. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, how long was it in the vault for? When did they put it in the vault? Has it always been there?
To assume it's been out at some point. I mean, how else were they making the elixir? You know, maybe they gave it to Dumbledore for safekeeping because they knew, I don't know, it was being sought. Maybe this wasn't the first time somebody tried to steal it.
That's a great point. I like this theory. I'm like trying to piece things together in my mind for it all now.
Good theory.
Because how did Dumbledore Like, did Dumbledore hire Quirrell specifically because he knew he was going to like Albania? Or no, he was hired before that. So like, did Dumbledore send him on a mission to Albania, or like put it in his mind to go to Albania because he's like, maybe he's trying to lure him back in that certain way too? Maybe like he knows Quirrell's not going to be like a, this great wizard to be a good host. And he's like, okay, let me send like, it seems like Dumbledore style. Let me send a sacrificial lamb out to Albania.
Who's dark now?
Yeah. No, Dumbledore's dark. I'm just coming up with these theories. It's Dumbledore I'm putting this on.
That's such a Dumbledore move. But he must have, because at this point, Dumbledore knows that there's this whole Defense Against the Dark Arts curse.
Yeah.
So what made him switch Quirrell to be Defense Against the Dark Arts? Like, there must have been something that Dumbledore was like, because he would have known that this is going to be this man's last year teaching at the school. So, sorry, I just had like a 10-second deja vu, and I know nobody cares, but that it sent me off for a second. Yeah, so like he must have known something, because why else would he do that?
It was either that or like Quirrell the last year gave him like a bad performance review, and Dumbledore was like, oh, well, that's it. Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, you got another year.
He's definitely that petty as well.
Yeah.
Do you think that Dumbledore is doing anything to try to break this curse?
Ooh.
Maybe he thinks if he hires such a unproblematic teacher that it would work, and maybe he thought, oh, Quirrell, what's this like little idiot gonna be causing chaos? Like, he probably thought that there's nothing that could possibly go wrong with Quirrell because he's so pure and innocent, and then this happened, and then he obviously gave up after that because the teachers that followed were inevitably gonna not last long.
Because he asks Snape to keep an eye on him, it gives the okay, he knows he's helping Voldemort, but I don't think he knows he's possessed by Voldemort. But that's how I saw it.
Yeah, I think I like that.
Yeah, and then at the beginning he isn't, right? It's only until he fails.
It's only later, yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember. He fails at what? Is it Gringotts or?
Yeah.
I think it was Gringotts. I also
because he doesn't have the turban on.
Yeah.
The cauldron, a leaky cauldron.
I wonder what the spell was to possess him in that way, to become like a parasite. Like, how did he actually latch himself onto the back of Quirrell's head? Like, I don't know.
Do you think it was something similar to a Horcrux, but maybe not as extreme?
Yeah, it might have been.
Because, like, in a sense, you're not creating a soul, but you're latching yours onto somebody else's.
Yeah.
It has like a horror movie aspect of it too, because like when he sees him in the forest, it's like they're describing it as like a slithering sound, and like he's crawling across the groundland, stalking like a beast. Like, it's just the visual that it puts in your head is so creepy.
Yeah.
You know, like to what extent is Voldemort able to control Quirrell's body?
Oh my gosh. And being in a dark forest in the middle of the night.
They'll have a cursed and half-life. So I was always on, is Voldemort, does he have the cursed and half-life? Or is it now Quirrell because it's his body?
That's a great question. There's like a mini digestive system in Quirrell's brain for Lord Voldemort for his mouth. Weird thoughts.
So gross.
Because I feel like if Quirrell if that's like going into his bloodstream, so I wonder if Quirrell really has a half-life too, and he's like just sacrificing himself for who is his master. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know what's interesting is before they go to the Forbidden Forest, they hear Quirrell going, "No, no, not again." And so it's almost like, I guess Voldemort like needs Quirrell to his cooperation to a certain extent still, it seems like, for him to be like pleading, "No, not again." I think I just made that connection on this read of like, oh yeah, he's saying no, no, not again. They think he's talking to Snape. And then that night they're in the Forbidden Forest and they come across him with the unicorn.
Wow. Like Quirrell doesn't actually want to go because I don't know if it said, is Quirrell the one drinking the blood or is Voldemort drinking the blood? Like what side of the head is drinking the blood?
I think it is Quirrell. I mean, I'm pretty I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's Quirrell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
because
I think it's
how
Quirrell.
do you bend your back that way?
Yeah.
That
That's even more horror movie. Yeah, that's like
he's like thick, like upside
Rachel
down.
Pilates.
I can't. I don't do horror movies, so I can't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What's that? Possession of what's it? Emily something.
Oh,
she like walks down the.
Mysticism of Emily Rose.
No, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't.
I've never watched it. My
I don't
sister
even like
watched
watching the
it
trailers for that
alone.
kind of stuff because it just sticks in my brain.
Yeah,
I know, if a horror movie trailer comes on, I'm like la la la.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I can't.
I end up doing it for way longer than I need to as well, and then I just look like an idiot. I mean, I look like an idiot no matter how long I do it for, but if you're doing it way beyond the length of the trailer. So yeah, I think even if it was a kids movie and there was Quirrell like this eating blood, I'd be
I remember this when I read it. This creeps me out. Like this, like that part when he's in the forest and it's like a slithering sound. Like it literally says, "Then out of the shadows, a hooded figure came crawling across the ground like some stalking beast." Like that scared the living daylights out of me.
Yeah.
I did not like that.
Yep.
So I'm a first time, like I read for the first time as an adult, and but there were, snatches here and there, parts of movies, like I overheard the audiobooks, just little bits and pieces. And so this part, like when I read it as an adult, I was like, what? That's the first book? It's so intense and creepy.
Yeah.
What in the world? I assumed it was later on.
Mm-hmm. I know that's even why,
and then
like,
the book 4 is
yeah,
it's like a voldy soup. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's nasty. There's some weird stuff that goes on there. I can't wait to talk about that. That's gonna be voldy soup. I like that actually. I'm gonna start calling it voldy soup.
Stick with me. I have to say, you kind of blew my mind when you were talking about that scene about when Harry was overhearing somebody threaten Quirrell, because I had never linked the fact that he was scared of going into the forest or or getting blood from a unicorn again. Like in my head, it was like two completely separate things. So it was really I just went back and reread it right now. It's really interesting to read it thinking, oh, this is what he's afraid of. So wow, thank you for that.
Yeah, that is really fascinating. I always thought that just meant like Voldemort was just hurting him in that moment. But this makes so much more sense, like connecting the two. That's a great dot to connect. Yeah. Love that.
I just saw this thing where what I underlined, and we were talking about the centaurs earlier about like what they know and what they don't know, and Forensis says, "I set myself against what is lurking in this forest, with humans alongside me if I must." So that tells me that they have some idea of what's going on. Maybe it's a vague. They don't know specifically, but they're definitely like they know that there's evil happening. You know.
Yeah.
And that the Sorcerer's Stone is in the castle.
Yeah. How the heck did they know that? Yeah.
They did know that. Yeah.
Did they? Because again, maybe this is to the theory that Dumbledore is setting this whole thing up, but he's told the Centaur certain things. But how do they know that other than like someone just telling them that? Is their version of seeing really good? Like, I don't know, is Mars a specific shade of Sorcerer's Stone? So they're like, oh, that means like, war is coming on the Sorcerer's Stone. It's a bizarre fact that they know.
I know that Snape was intimidating Quirrell about, they were in the forest.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just putting things together based off of several sources.
Yeah, it's valid.
Do you think they read the Daily Prophet?
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah.
They probably hate that name. They probably hate that name so much.
Go grab a copy.
We have to rest it on each other's. Are we on about the centaurs?
Yeah.
We're talking about the centaurs. They'd have to like rest it on each other's arses to read it. They can't hold it. Like they're all just in a line. newspaper
In a
read
circle.
in a circle. Yeah, just like, oh, turning the page with their nose.
Well, hold on.
They have arms.
Don't centaurs have arms too?
Do they?
I think so.
Like,
Because it's like from the
Yeah.
torso up, right?
Yeah.
Becky, I love that image even more though. This is gonna become my headcanon now. That it's an entire horse except for just the head. The head is a human head.
I think I'm thinking of the movies, because in the movies they don't have arms, do they?
Yeah.
They totally have arms.
One is they have bows and arrows, remember?
Yeah.
What in the Mandela effect is going on?
Yeah, I know,
I swear that they were just I thought they were just torsos. But like
remember
horse
that time Becky thought the centaurs had no arms?
Yeah.
Oh, those days. Let's leave them behind us.
Oh my gosh.
I can't even picture them with arms. Like in my head, they're still just torsos with no arms.
After this is over, look up a picture of centaurs.
I'm gonna need to. I mean, I believe you all, but I just can't even picture them.
Oh, that's
I have the
this
opposite.
story-
I'm having a hard time picturing it without.
I know,
picturing
yeah,
them
yeah.
without arms.
Just chopped off, yeah.
I'm just like, is it just a head or is it the torso?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like a horse.
Anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, they do have arms. I literally just pictured them with no arms. I don't know why. I mean, I still think they read the Daily Prophet off each other's
Yeah.
I
Again.
Oh my gosh.
There's one thing I just
funny.
realized too. This is totally random and completely off centaur topic, but I was thinking there's a line here where I'm sure all of us remember. It says where Hagrid says, "I don't know if he had enough human left in him to die." I want to know what made him say that, because that foreshadows the Horcrux kind of thing. You know, I don't think he knows necessarily about a Horcrux, but I think that was funny that she even wrote that in there.
Yeah.
I don't know if he even had enough human left in him to die.
He's pretty spot on with that,
Yeah.
actually.
Just happened to look down and I have my book open and it's right there, but I just read that. But
Where is Tom Riddle's body?
Exploded.
exploded.
Because it's not with Lily and James, right? He fled there, and then did his soul just like ebb out of his body, and his body is just like, you know, by a tree somewhere in Albania?
I figured that his body must have been like maybe parts of it left behind when like at the Potter's house, you know, because
yeah.
the curse rebounded. But when curses rebound, like it was an Avada Kedavra. So I'm just assuming his body was just left behind, maybe disposed of.
Maybe, yeah. But if that was the case, then Hagrid probably wouldn't have said that line. So that's what made me think of that. Like if he sees a body there, like just typically in the wizarding world, if you see a body, I mean, it's like the normal muggle world too.
Voldemort did explain it as being ripped apart, so I just like
I thought he was referring to
imagined
his
he
soul.
yeah, but I just imagined he like imploded and then his soul slithered off somewhere.
Something like in the last movie. Obviously, the movie is different to the books. But what happens to his body in the last movie? I kind of imagine it's like that. Just like disintegrates into nothingness.
Got anal snap.
Yeah, exactly. I love these random theories that are coming up.
I love the line. I almost put it up as my favorite quote, but I didn't. So Harry says when he sees the unicorn, he says I've never seen anything so beautiful and sad. And I think that sums up the series for me.
Yeah. Something so beautiful and so sad. That's great. Do you guys have anything else before we go into favorite lines? Because it's a good transition into favorite lines. All right, something so beautiful and sad is a great line. That's not my favorite, but what are your guys' favorite lines?
It's not my favorite. It's almost my favorite. But
I'll take that one because I didn't write down any. So my favorite line is, "I've never seen something so beautiful and sad." Thank you.
It's so original.
know. I don't know what made me think of that one. Do you know what? I thought it really reflected the series as a whole.
I stole yours last time, so it's fine.
I'm like the Gilderoy Lockhart of this podcast. I'll just take it as my own.
Your first book can be like, these centaurs have arms. Wrap me in your centaur arm.
All I need to do is just gaslight you all into thinking that I'm right. You guys must have seen a different version of the film. Because in the UK, they don't have arms in the films. And obviously, it's original here. So, you're all wrong, clearly.
I have a whole community of diehard.
Imagine that painting in Parks and Rec, where Jerry paints, I don't know if you've watched it, like, what's her name? The lead actress. No, I can't remember.
Leslie Knope in it? Or
yeah, Leslie where he paints her as a goddess, and then like or centaur goddess, and then the other guy's like the.
I've been thinking about that episode because of this chapter.
What show are we talking about? I'm so lost.
Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec.
Yeah, when Becky said they don't. When Becky was saying that they didn't have arms, like that's what I was gonna be like. Becky, haven't you seen Parks and Rec? But apparently not.
I've not seen that.
And no, she doesn't have a bow. Like the Cupid has a bow. Anyway, but she has arms there.
It reminds me of that meme too. Have you guys seen the meme where it's like the horse drawing, where the front half of the horse is drawn like perfectly and beautifully, and the back half is like a 2-year-old drew it? Like that's Becky's depiction.
We all do like the
upper body is just like a 2-year-old drew the upper body. The back half is a beautiful horse.
Oh God! I wish you could see in my head what I see the centaurs look like.
All right, what are your guys' favorite lines?
I think I really like the closing line, which is written down, so just in case, because it just makes me feel like Dumbledore is watching.
Yeah. Agreed.
Like in a good way, not in a creepy way.
Yeah, he does watch in creepy ways, but this is a good way.
I like at the beginning of the chapter. Sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay. It was poor blundering Neville. Harry knew what it must have cost him to try and find them in the dark to warn them. I'm just like, it just makes me sad for Neville because Neville's one of my favorites, and he's
the best.
I don't know.
Oh, I love Neville.
I just can't catch a break.
I love because I have a dog. I love that Malfoy goes, "I want Fang," said Malfoy quickly, looking at Fang's long teeth. "All right, but I warn you, he's a coward," said Hagrid. And I love that. I love that in the movies too. He's not a boarhound in the movies, but I love him in the movies just because he's like the look that he gives the kids when he's on his like little perch and he just like looks over like he's an absolute coward. Oh my gosh, it's so cute.
That's like the best description of my dogs. Oh my word. Cowards.
Yeah.
Mine is that the innocent always the first victims.
Yeah, that's a good line. Any other favorites? All right. Well, we'll go on to the next chapter.